This meeting is being recorded.
All right, so a very, very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who is joining us today. We have a number of participants still joining in, so we're going to take a couple of minutes before we start the webinar this evening. Yep, while everyone else is joining, I would like to definitely introduce the Associate Dean of IT, who is joining us with me today for this webinar, Paul Darwin.
Hi.
Fantastic. So we obviously got a number of participants still getting in, and for some reason my picture is frozen. But as long as you can hear me, I'll just keep going. In about a minute, we're going to start this webinar. But in the meantime, if you want to share with us where you are joining us from this evening, that would be fantastic. So we got the chat window, and if you want to just put your city or country where you're joining us from, would be lovely to know. So I think the chat is activated, and you can use the chat to just let us know where you're joining us from this evening. Right, so it appears that there is an issue with the chat as always, so you can put your location in the Q&A box. That works, fantastic. So we've got Hyderabad, India, we've got Nepal. Let them come in. Where else are you all joining from? Mumbai, India, Brisbane. Fantastic. Sure, you're enjoying the cold in Brisbane. It's pretty cool at the moment. Ludhiana, India, Nepal, Hyderabad, Nepal again, Pakistan, fantastic. Chennai, Jasmine from Bangladesh. Hello, Jasmine, good to see you here. Vivian from Kenya, fantastic. We got some more from India, from Hyderabad again, Nairobi, Kenya, fantastic. We've got our international marketing manager currently traveling extensively in Kenya, in Africa, Tom Collin. We've also got, again, someone from India, Mumbai, Kenya. Lovely. This is turning out to be a good attendance, and we've still got people joining in, so I'll keep going until we have a good number of you joining us this evening. Got somebody from Bangalore again. We've got Kenya, Nairobi. Superb. This is good. So not everyone's responding. We're going to wait till most of you put your city or country on the chat box. We would love to know where you are from. Maybe I should announce a prize, some kind of a surprise prize for those who are putting the names in there. Lovely. So we've got a number of you join already, and without further ado, we would commence the webinar. As you all know, it is about the launch of our brand new program, Master of Data Science. Excuse me if my image is still frozen and you can't really see me, but today, more than anything else, it's Paul Darwin. He's the Associate Dean. He's the most important person for us. He's going to be talking about MDS as well as sharing some insights into the field of data science. In a second, I will be sharing my screen and we can get started. So bear with me for about 10 seconds. Fantastic. Paul, if you can give me a thumbs up so I know that the screen can be seen.
Yep, I can see the blue background, Master of Data Science Global Launch.
Fantastic. Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the launch of the Master of Data Science program at James Cook University, Brisbane campus this evening. As I mentioned before, we are joined by Paul Darwin. He's the Associate Dean for IT at JCU Brisbane and a top expert in the field, in the subject field. So we will hear more from Paul Darwin as we progress through the webinar. And this is really what we are going to cover this evening. So as you can see on the screen, is a bit slow. You've seen the host, that's me on the left. I'm the International Marketing Director at JCU Brisbane. And as I mentioned, Paul Darwin is our Associate Dean for IT. So here's what we're going to cover this evening. We have an introduction, which we've already done. Then we have, we're going to talk about what is data science, why is data science so much in demand, data science, key skills required, Master of Data Science professional program projections in terms of jobs, data science career opportunities, and again, a bit of information on the job market across the top 4 countries. Then we have an interesting poll, which I would strongly encourage you to participate in, followed by a Master of Data Science course overview. And of course, as customary, we have a Q&A session for all of you this evening. So if you have any questions, please hold them until the end of the session, and we would certainly love to answer those questions. So once again, warm welcome to our agents, counselors, some students as well joining in this evening. And this is how we're going to kickstart. A very, very quick overview. JCU Brisbane is located in the heart of Brisbane City. One of the top advantages of studying at James Cook University in the Brisbane campus is the JobLinks employment service, which would help you with obtaining part-time jobs, full-time jobs, as well as internships. Small class size, something we take much pride in, and that helps you understand the concepts taught in the class much better compared to being in a class of 300, 400, even more. I'm sure this is the one that all of you know, 25% scholarship, very, very popular, and our extraordinary focus on academic learning as well as professional, as well as the outcome of the program. And last but not the least, competitive admissions and compliance turnaround times. A bit of a sensitive topic at the moment. I know some of you have been requesting for a faster turnaround, and be assured we are working on that. But this evening, we are talking about data science. One of the key things that we discovered during the research is that there wasn't a very clear explanation of what data science is. And most of you demanded, try and explain that in the simplest form. As you can see, I'm not going to read it out. It's self-explanatory. It's a field where you can work with data to find meaningful answers using scientific methods. Now, to give some further insight, this is a bit of an analogy we have created. You know what are the ingredients. Some of you may know what are the ingredients of a cake. Got a little nice picture of the ingredients of cake over there, but just like there are a bunch of different items, bunch of different ingredients that go into making a cake, data science, similar. There are various subjects which would comprise, which would constitute data science. And I'm definitely going to be getting Paul in a few seconds. But Paul, first question for you. We've got four different subjects mentioned for data science as part of being data science. What are some of the other subjects that you would say should be part of the data science as a topic?
Well, the master's degree, there's a whole bunch of subjects that are part of the degree. For example, foundations of data science. That goes into the big picture of the sort of things that we can do with it, why it's important, and so that's one of the first subjects that students will do. There's a lot of case studies for that, a lot of war stories. Our staff, many of them have commercial experience. I worked for 2 years in a drug discovery company. Another of our staff worked for a research project developing a drone to discover sharks swimming off the coast of Wollongong. So we've got a lot of fun war stories to motivate students. And yeah, that introductory subject covers things like visualization, snappy graphs, how we can intuitively show what data we're looking at, and cleaning data, because people are sometimes not entirely honest on surveys. So finding which questions are genuine and which questions maybe not so reliable.
Right.
So that's one subject. But yes, it's very computer-oriented. It lives and dies on software. But there is a lot of maths, a lot of statistics that goes into it as well.
Yeah.
And data science is a subset of a much broader field of artificial intelligence, which covers things like chess computers. So yeah, there's lots of topics that are very interesting.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Paul. I'm sure that's helpful for our audience, and I see the number still growing. So we still got a number of people joining us. And just for your information, this webinar is being recorded. So if any of you have missed any particular items, we are more than happy to share with you the recording. Next slide. It's really talking about why is data science so much in demand, and we've got a few dot points there. Modern businesses are receiving tremendous amount of data from all places. And I think since we are in the education industry, a good example here would be a number of you counselors who may be working for more than 5-10 years in the industry. 10 years ago, you may be dealing with 50 students, for instance, in a month. Now you may be dealing with 150, or your team may be dealing with 500. So the volume of the customer base is increasing, data is increasing, and I think when we're talking about students, it's not just one student, it's about the various features of the particular student, like male, female, age group. So you need to be able to make sense of all this data, and that's exactly where data science comes in. Now, I do know that Paul has some very interesting case studies that he shares with his student. And I went through a bunch of slides which Paul recently shared with me. So Paul, may I ask you to share one of the case studies perhaps where data was used effectively or data was misused? Even that would be something exciting for our audience to know. Maybe the example that you gave me when we met last evening. You're on mute, sorry, Paul.
So share screen, I've got host disabled attendee share screen. That mean...
Do you want to share the screen, or if you want to just...
Yep. Yeah, when I push the share screen button.
Just give me a moment.
Yep. Standing by.
Okay, so maybe I'll stop sharing my screen and then I'll allow you to...
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you want to share the screen?
Okay, when I click on the share screen button, it says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Oh, okay.
So you might need to push a button so that I can share my screen.
I do not have the option here. Sorry, Paul. If you can do it without sharing the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, sure. Let's talk about it.
Yep. Let's talk about it.
One part of data science is data mining, where a client collects a whole bunch of data There's usually either not enough data or too much. but that's the data we have to work with. Data mining will use software tools to try to find patterns and regularities in that data that will allow us to make predictions. Sounds good. For instance, if certain kinds of customers of a particular age and a particular income tend to prefer a particular product, it will pick up on that pattern and make you aware of it. So that sounds great. There are a number of problems, though, that if the data has something wrong with it, if the patterns are in some way biased or untrue, then it will still pick up the patterns and tell you answers that are biased and untrue. A good example is when you have friends over for dinner and you cook food for them and you ask your friends, what do you think of my cooking? If they're your friends, they won't maybe tell you exactly what they'll think. They'll be nice. And that's one of the things that happens. We have a survey. People give an answer which is perhaps more polite than what they really think. And as a result, what's in the data is all we have to go by. That's one of the reasons why predictions about elections are often wrong. Remember when they predicted that Brexit wouldn't get up and that Donald Trump wouldn't become president? And those predictions were wrong because people aren't entirely honest on surveys. Another example was, here we are, yeah, Amazon. Amazon wanted to develop a data mining tool to predict which employees would do well so that they knew which they should hire, which ones they should promote. So they used Amazon's historical data about who they hired and who they promoted. And it seems that Amazon has a problem with hiring women because they found that the model that produced from that historical data, if it was a woman, it would usually say, don't hire them. But if you just flipped that from girl to boy, then it would change and say, yeah, you should hire them. So they couldn't get clean data that didn't create a tool that was sexist. So Amazon just canceled the whole project. So that's a problem. And we talk about some of these ethical problems relating to biased data and ways we can deal with it, because that's a research topic. So that's something from real life. From Amazon, you would think they would know what they were doing, but they just couldn't get it to work because they couldn't get unbiased data. So the complexities are sometimes subtle and unexpected.
Right. Excellent. Thanks for sharing that, Paul. And as we move forward, some of the key skills we're going to talk about that data science would need: statistics, math, machine learning, programming, data storytelling, analytical abilities. And when I was putting these slides together, Paul, I did make a note here. I can see that I'm going to definitely ask you, what is data storytelling? Now that's a complete bouncer for me. And I'm going to ask you to share with the audience as well, what exactly is data storytelling?
Well, the idea is that the data has in it patterns and regularities which the software can extract and identify and make you aware of. But often those relationships are in some ways perhaps misleading. A good example is you've been on a plane and everything's smooth, you're drinking your drink, and then the fasten seatbelt sign comes on. Bing, bing. The voice says, please return to your seat, fasten your seatbelt. And then the plane gets bumpy, bounces around. And then the fasten seatbelt sign goes off. Bing, bing. Everything's smooth. There's always one passenger who says to a flight attendant, can you tell the pilot to stop turning on that sign? Because they think the sign causes the turbulence. And if that's all the data you have, that looks like a perfectly reasonable conclusion to make. But you know, of course, that your data doesn't contain the air outside the plane. So by data storytelling, the software, it can identify relationships and say, if this is true, this other thing also is usually true. But it's very easy to leap to the conclusion that the first thing causes the second thing. But often it's more complicated than that. A good example in retail is a cycling company found that people who recently bought a bicycle because the bank shares personal data about your purchasing through your credit card, they found that people who recently bought a credit card, who bought a bicycle, expensive high-end bicycle, shortly after that, there would often be customers who bought both an umbrella and a bus card. And they thought, what is it about bicycles that cause people to buy umbrellas? That sounds crazy. But of course, you think about it, it means they rode their bicycle to work one day and then it was raining. So they bought an umbrella and caught the bus home. And yeah, the software doesn't understand what's happening out in the real world. So it takes a certain open-mindedness to interpret the data to avoid it misleading you. So that's what we mean by that.
Interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Thank you for sharing, Paul. And I see a few of our audience members have been raising hand. And please, if you can wait until the end of the session, we have ample time for some Q&A. So if you have any questions, please hold those questions until the end, and we can jump straight into it. Moving on to the next, this is a slide we've put in just to show some projections on the data science program in terms of job prospects, in terms of jobs. And as you can see, there are two different items at the bottom. One is an all jobs average, which you can see for the bachelor degree, a little over 20% of them have actually got a bachelor degree when it comes to jobs other than intelligence or policy analysts. But the same thing when you compare with jobs in the space of intelligence and policy analysts, basically data science, more than 40% of them actually have a bachelor degree. And if you compare it with masters, is the same story. So most jobs in that space would require or would give a preference if you have a postgraduate degree in the field, in fields such as a Master of Data Science. And that sort of gives you an idea of how crucial having a Master of Data Science degree is when it comes to applying for jobs in these areas. And of course, this is something we've picked up from the Australian Government Labour Market Insights, and you can find some more details, more statistics on this when you go on the Australian Government website. So I've just thrown that in. No questions here, Paul. We'll move on to the next one. Data science career opportunities, and there are a whole bunch of different career options once you've completed your Master of Data Science program. Data scientist, data engineer, data analyst, machine learning engineer, data architect, visualization specialist, and statistician. Now, I'm going to ask you about the data architect sort of title or job. What is this all about, and what is the key role, or what sort of tasks does a data architect have?
Well, the analogy is with civil engineering. If you think of data being similar to water, we need to get that data from the sources, things like the retail customer transactions, the weather. We have to pull that data in from a variety of sources. The analogy is that's like having pipes and dams and lakes, that we bring the water in to the point that we can then give it to people who need it. So when we say a data engineer, we talk of data pipelines. It means they write software to extract data from databases, to pull things off websites, and to sort and organize the data into a form that we can use our software tools. So that's a data engineer. And in the real world, a lot of it is just pure engineering, getting the data to where it needs to be and making it work. A data architect is somebody who organizes the big picture. Where are we getting the data from? How are we processing it? And how are we using that data to predict the answers that we need? So a data architect is typically the person who runs the team. They've got a couple of data engineers, a couple of data analysts, there's some data mining people, database person. And so, yeah, it's the analogy is like pipes, dams, lakes, And it all comes into a tap in your kitchen that allows you to do useful work.
Mm.
And the visualization is very important because the answers, the board, the marketing people, they need some answers. And to explain it clearly, pictures and graphs and visualization are very helpful. And so, yeah, using the software tools to produce very nice graphs that can communicate a message. That's why we have a subject just about visualization. And there are some people who specialize in that sort of visualization to make the message understandable to a variety of audiences.
Right. This is very, very interesting, Paul. And I can now see the reason why a number of students with a very strong business background and not necessarily an IT background are also seeking a degree in data science. Like, for instance, I'm from a very strong business background. I've got an MBA, but now I'm finding that data science seems to be an interesting topic, much more interesting than a Master of IT program, perhaps. And we are seeing the interest coming in from even accountants wanting to be a data science, wanting to do a Master of Data Science program. So it's all something definitely quite interesting than what we've seen in the past. So thank you again, Paul, for educating us along the way, and we'll keep moving forward. So this is an interesting slide, ladies and gentlemen, and this is about the job opportunity, job market across, top 4 study destinations: Australia, United States, United Kingdom, and Canada. And as you can see, not just the job prospects that are increasing, from anywhere between 36%, 20% to 36%. But if you look at the average salary, example in US, it's about $77,000 to $130,000. Australia, $115,000 average salary to $135,000. And ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you for sure, this is a very, very good package for someone who's just completed their program or a couple of years experience. Anywhere in the range of $115,000 or upwards, you're doing well in Australia. So that's definitely something that you may want to share with your students, with your prospective students. The UK, similar story, earning anywhere between £30,000 to upwards of £70,000. And likewise with Canada, a good package for students going for data science. And you may not be able to see the source, but when you receive the recording, feel free to regularly check on the sources and be updated with the latest in terms of packages across different parts of the world. Moving on to the next one, it's time for a poll and just take a short break, but I'm going to start the poll and I invite you all to participate in the poll, which is going to be on now. All right, so you can probably see it on the screen, but I'm still going to just say this question aloud. When recommending a master's program in data science to students, which of the below are most important for you? Option 1, curriculum and course offerings. Option 2, faculty expertise and industry experience in data science. Option 3, opportunities for practical experience. And option 4 is scholarships. And I can see it started as a tough race between the 4. We'll keep going for another 30 seconds. I can see very, very good participation on this. About 50% of you have participated already, which is fabulous. And we do have another 20 odd seconds. So keep going. This is getting interesting. I'm not sure if the audience can see this live results, but it's sort of a tough competition in the start, and now we seem to be having a winner already. So between the 4 options, I'll just wait for another couple of seconds. You can see some of you still making up your mind, participating in the poll. Fabulous. So of the 4 options, the winner is opportunities for practical experience / internship. So the audience, majority of the audience thinks, more than 50% of you think that opportunity for practical experience and internship is more important when recommending a master program. And I'm totally loving this because that's exactly what we are offering through our Master of Data Science program. So be rest assured that you will be able to offer a fabulous program to your students. And the second most popular choice here is the curriculum and course offerings. We will be deep diving into that. Third most popular is the faculty experience and expertise in the industry. And a very small percentage of you have said scholarships, which is very, very interesting. I wasn't expecting scholarship to be at the bottom, but that just goes to tell us that everyone, each one of you as a counselor, as an agent, is very keen to ensure that there is a bright future for your students. That's lovely. So I will end the poll. Thank you for participating, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the end of the poll. Share results. So these are the results, which I believe you can see. Paul, if you can give me a thumbs up.
Yes, I can see that.
Yep.
Sure. The 52% of people who thought practical experience was important, of the 16 subjects for this Master of Data Science, 2 of them are called Masterclass 1 and Masterclass 2, where we'll bring in people from outside to tell war stories of what they did and how they solved the problem. There's also 2 subjects, Professional Placement or Internship 1 and 2, where students will be placed in somewhere that needs their skills. And again, to round them off, make sure that they have experience and the judgment in real world situations with real problems. So there's a lot of that curriculum that has case studies and real applications.
Fascinating. Thank you, Paul, for that. And that was going to be one of our topics in the next slide, so I'll keep moving. These are the subjects, ladies and gentlemen, on which are part of the Master of Data Science professional program. I have not been saying professional, but it's a Master of Data Science professional program, and that makes a lot of difference. So there are 16 subjects in total. Paul just mentioned about the Data Science Masterclass 1, the Data Science Masterclass 2. So there are some very, very interesting industry-led subjects, to give you some practical experience. At the bottom right, you will see a professional placement / internship. So Paul, rather than me picking a subject this time, I'm going to let you pick a subject and just share, anything interesting, or maybe just define what the subject really means.
Well, there's there are a lot of software tools that we go into. Writing raw programs to do your data engineering and data mining. There are a number of software tools for that. The Python programming language has a certain popularity. So we do have a subject that tells people how to use Python, but with a focus on data mining and data engineering. That's intended to be portable. The general principles and problem solving will carry over to other programming languages as well. So yeah, the introduction to data mining as a part of the wider field of data science. Yeah, that's very at the cutting edge. That's the sort of thing that you people usually think about when they think of data science. But in the field includes things like data engineering. How do you actually get the data in so you can do your data mining? So that one, introduction to data mining, is very much aimed at when you're part of a team, somebody else is setting up the data pipelines, and you're the one who has to make the magic happen. You'll notice there's another subject that mentions security, privacy, ethics. You've probably heard of scandals where people had their data stolen. that Cambridge Analytica scandal in the US presidential election. Yeah, so you're dealing with data. Some of it is very personal. The last thing you want is a big scandal where the data has been stolen, where it's being misused. And so we go into the very rich fields of things that have gone horribly wrong, so that students can exercise judgment and avoid having things go wrong for them. So we have a whole subject just about that. So yeah, it's a well-balanced collection. It's not purely technical.
Yep.
The idea is to have students gain judgment and understanding of the bigger world so that they can make sound decisions. And on that note, you'll notice one of the subjects is data science and strategic decision making for business. So yes, the idea is to give them the broader perspective of what kind of questions are going to be helpful. So they're not just robots and somebody else tells them what to do and they blindly obey. Where we'll instill judgment and a sound understanding of the bigger picture as well.
Very, very interesting, Paul. And I must say, a beautiful bunch of subjects here, because I think without really even knowing what the subject entails, there are things like career planning. It definitely is a well-balanced program, because there's a lot of technical knowledge, there's a lot of industry placement, internships, there's career planning. So like I said before, maybe this is exactly what some of the students are attracted to, and still wanting to move from not just IT, but even accounting and business backgrounds to a Master of Data Science program. So thank you for that, Paul. And that brings us to I believe, the last slide before we start a question and answer session. But this may be of interest for our counselors and agents. Entry criteria, basically a bachelor degree, AQF level 7. I'm sure most of you know what that means. Course fee, 34,960 Australian dollars, just under $35,000 a year. It's a 2-year program with a standard English entry criteria for those countries where you need to submit an English test score. The first intake, the launch intake, is October 2023, certified by SAS, scholarship of 25 to 30% for all countries, depending on your academic score as well as your English test scores. I do want to take a quick stop here. And Paul, I would like to ask you, SAS certification, honestly, I've just put that in there. Can you explain what that means and how is it valuable for our future students?
Well, SAS is a software tool. Among other things, it does statistics. So yes, one of the S's stands for statistics. But in recent years, SAS has added a lot of functionality in data mining. So there's a lot of organizations that like the tools that SAS offers them. And so there'll be a SAS house that much of their data mining work, they might not use Python, they don't want to spend the time to write their own software, they're happy to use the tools that SAS offers. So we do have a subject where we run them through some of the problem-solving issues and case studies, but the students will learn to use SAS software to answer those questions. And part of that subject is they do the little exam to get the SAS certification, which then they can add into their CV, and when they're looking for jobs, that's one of the boxes that many employers will be looking for. So yeah, we don't only use SAS. As we said, there's a subject for Python, but SAS gets a look in for sure.
That's great. Thank you. Very good to know that, Paul. And that brings us to the end of the slides. We're going to throw this open for questions from the audience, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I'm going to get straight into the Q&A box where you can start putting your questions. So all the participants, you're welcome to throw your questions into the chat, into the Q&A box. And definitely we would love to answer. So we've got a whole bunch of them coming in already. So let me do this very quick. Will the 25% scholarship be there for next year intake? That's March 2024. What are the minimum number of units for international students, 2 or 3? Well, at this point, yes, the 25% scholarship does exist for the first intake of 2024. We will be soon announcing our 2024 scholarships, but be assured we will continue to, offer the best possible scholarship as we have been in the past years. I'm not too sure of the next part of the question, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on to minimum number of units for international students, that's 3. So you need to study at least 3 subjects in the beginning. Next question. Thanks for the session. Thank you very much, Binod, for that quick feedback. In relation to Master of Data Science entry, a student needs to be from an IT background. Well, not really. We are looking for a bachelor degree that's acceptable as an AQF level 7. But yes, the application would land with the admissions team, and we would need to look at the subjects more carefully before offering you a Master of Data Science. But you do not need a specific IT background as such for the program. Moving on to the next question, are there any specializations available? Well, I'm not sure, Paul, if that's a question for you. Do you think there are any specializations in the program, like a major or a minor that students can select?
Not at the moment, no. The idea is that the, in brackets, professional is, I guess, the distinction from the unprofessional Master of Data Science, yeah. So at the moment, there is no major or minor or anything like that.
Fantastic.
So all students do those subjects.
Terrific. Thank you. We've got a next question from Faith. Is IELTS compulsory for countries which have been exempted? No. If your country has been exempted for other courses, then you do not need an IELTS score. We've got a question. What is machine learning? Maybe we can do a very quick answer on that. It's a pretty big question, but...
Well, machine learning is a field of artificial intelligence where the software, a piece of software, attempts to create a model that allows it to do some task which a human would normally use. So there's a number of approaches, for example, software to play games like chess, that could be called machine learning. They don't rely on taking their cues from human experts or mimicking human experts. Instead, they start from ground zero with no understanding of what is a good move in chess. And thanks to simulating many, many millions of chess games, they work out by themselves what would be a good move in chess in this situation. So as for chess, there's a variety of other approaches that are completely different. It's a very wide field. But the idea is that, yes, given what information we have, the machine will create its own model without needing a human expert to say what that model should be. So machine learning is one of the approaches that is used in data science to do things like finding patterns or making predictions. It also has the very Frankenstein thing that anyone who works in machine learning quickly finds a problem where the machine is better than they are. So that's very sobering. But yeah, that's what machine learning, loosely speaking, means. But it's a very, very flexible definition.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Next question, we've got, is there a possibility of someone getting into the program not having relevant background? I think I've answered that question. Yes, but again, the application would land at the admissions team's desk, and then that's how we would progress. But we do not need a very specific IT background. How many backlogs will be accepted? Now, that's a pretty vast question. It depends on the profile. usually would accept between 10 and 15 backlogs, not a problem, but you need to be sure that the student hasn't taken more than the standard duration to complete the program. That's when it starts to become tricky for us. So to answer your question broadly, yes, we do accept backlogs. That's not a big problem, but not in hundreds. So just keep that in mind. Is it accredited? I believe it's accredited degree. Yes, it's certified by SAS, as Professor Paul Darwin has mentioned. Anyone from other subjects can join this program. Well, broadly, I've answered that question. Mrs. Lily has asked, is there any additional scholarship for the Master of Data Science launch on top of 25 question? Wonderful question. Scholarship, sorry, wonderful question. At the moment, it's the standard 25 to 30% scholarship. But if you send us very good students, we will consider a special scholarship for those agents, for sure. A student completed BTech, that's a Bachelor of Technology in Electronics, and 2-year work experience. Yes, that looks like potentially from an entry point of view, that looks relevant, but we'll need to keep in mind there is something called GTE, which you're all aware of, genuine temporary entrant. So a significant change in your path, in your study path, may not be most conducive for entry into the program. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the feedback. Can you please share the recorded video? 100% yes, we will. Gap accepted. Yes, gap is accepted. To answer that broadly. What's the academic criteria? I will take a screenshot of this question and I'll send you, depending on which country you are from. I'm going to try and pick some data science relevant questions here, so we don't go too far away from the topic. Why would you recommend a student choosing to study a Master of Data Science over a Master of IT program? Oh, that's a tough one. And I'm going to very, very conveniently pass it on to Paul. I'm not sure if we are recommending a program over other programs, for sure. So we're not recommending Master of Data Science over a Master of IT necessarily. But Paul, do you have any inputs?
Well, the difference is a Master of IT is more broad. There is a subject for data mining, but there's also subjects about computer networking, computer security. There are 3 subjects about databases. So the idea is that it gives a broader and more rounded background. That means you have more opportunities. But naturally, that means we cannot go into it in as much detail. So you're a jack of all trades, but an expert at none of them. Except maybe the databases. Those 3 subjects are highly regarded. The idea of a Master of Data Science is because students and graduates say, I like data science. Can I learn more about it? Why is there only 1 subject in this master's? There's more than 1 subject in the Bachelor of IT. But that's why this degree was created, so that you could go into more issues, more tools, more case studies, and come out ready to go into a job at a fairly high level.
Right. Thank you for that, Paul. All right. So moving on to some more questions. We got some time, so we can keep going with the questions. Thank you, Team JCUB. Age limit. Well, we do not really have an age limit, but again, that goes back to the GTE process. To be able to obtain a visa, you may not be beyond 35, maybe. That's stretching a bit, but usually students between 22 and 35, 30, 32, 33, no problem. Beyond that, it starts to become a bit sort of questionable, bit risky as well. Academic entry criteria for India. I'm going to let our India team get back to you on this. What about financials? That's again a very visa-related question. If you're asking for the fee, it's just under $35,000 for a year. And moving on to the next question, does a student from the IT master's degree can be advised for this course? Definitely yes. If you have an IT background, you're probably the perfect candidate for this course. We do have some questions around the background, Paul, and if I may just pause with the questions. So our entry criteria does not really state that we need an IT bachelor degree.
No. Found that people who do a degree in, say, maths or physics are well set up, and they can, pick up the computer side of things. Similarly, if their undergraduate degree was about statistics, then that will serve them well also. So it doesn't have to be an IT degree about programming and databases. They can learn more of that when they come here. But so long as it's something quantitative, a lot of numbers heavy, then that sort of background will also be good.
Okay, thanks for answering that question. And those of you who are inquiring about the entry criteria, we would be sending out some literature in the coming days, and you would have some more clarity around that topic of entry and what kind of degrees would be accepted. From what I see right now, there is no specific degree that we are seeking from you. Just like our MIT program, where you could be from a non-IT background completely, and you would still be accepted into an MIT program. So if there is any change in that going forward, you would be advised of much in advance. So hopefully that helps with those who are asking those questions. Entry criteria for Nepal, we will be asking our South Asia team to come back to you on this. I'm trying to avoid getting too much into specific countries. BBA student can go for Master in Data Science. Can a BBA student go for Master in Data Science? Paul, interesting question. Technically, I would say yes, but are we specifying that a Bachelor of Business background student cannot go into a Master of Data Science program? You're on mute, sorry, Paul.
It would depend to some extent on what subjects they did. So if they did heavy marketing, but no statistics or anything quantitative, then maybe not. Yeah.
Great.
There was another question about a general science degree. I suppose it depends what the field was. So if they did a lot of biology and it wasn't quantitative or numerical, then maybe not. But yeah, anything maths, physics, analytical chemistry, maybe. Yeah, something quantitative, then that would be usually considered favourable.
Thanks for that. Many of the audience members were hoping to get that feedback, and I'm glad you just clarified that, Paul. Can a current student transfer into this course if it is okay, if it is of interest to them, only for new students? Well, current students can, but the process would be far different to a new student. So current students would need to meet the enrollments officer. Then we'll need to study what subjects they've completed, whether they qualify for the program, and then the advice can be given to them. But to answer your question, yes, if someone wants to switch over, there's no reason why we would refuse those students. So that's that. Can this course benefit a person with professional background of HR? That's Paul, you're on mute, sorry.
Using data mining in HR is a popular thing to do, looking for patterns and regularities in people and employees. So, one use is to predict who is likely to be unhappy or burn out or resign. So it certainly has lots of applications in HR, yes. A person with a professional background in HR, if they wanted to do this sort of degree, I suppose it depends if they enjoy working with data and numbers and doing the detective story of finding to solve why it is, can we predict it or not, and why not. Yeah. So I guess it depends if they've done things with a slightly mathematical, statistical bent in their HR background.
Right. Excellent. Thanks for answering that. And with that, I think we have come to the end of all the questions. I'll probably give another couple of seconds if there are any more questions anybody has missed or still wants to ask, because we got about 5 minutes, but we don't have to use all of those 5 minutes. So it looks like everyone's done with the questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, if that's all the questions that you had for us. Um, a, a very, very big thank you for joining us today. Like I said before, the recording will be supplied to each of you. If you haven't been able to participate or leave halfway, you would still have the recording. And we will send it to you over the next couple of days. But thank you for joining from whichever part of the world you are in. And we hope that the information was helpful, the session was useful for you. And we look forward to working closely with you on promoting one of the top programs in the industry at the moment, Master of Data Science Professional. So in the next few days, you can expect a whole bunch of videos coming out from us on our social. So please stay connected with our social on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I would also encourage all of you to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can see my name on the screen. So if you are on LinkedIn, please do connect with me on LinkedIn, because I share some very valuable information all the time about international education and professional development. So Paul, thank you very much for the expert advice and sharing your knowledge on everything data science this evening. We really appreciate that.
Well, thanks very much. Thanks for the opportunity. It's an honor.
Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, and have a great night. So with this, we'll call it a day. Thank you and goodbye again.